This is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the game. Be sure to like the video, subscribing is great as well. So we're here on Xbox Series X in this asymmetrical multiplayer experience. 4 victims, 3 of the family, and you are trying to survive as a victim or kill as that family. Oh. So we got 2 graphical options. The first is what I would recommend, performance, dynamic 1080p at 60 FPS. And then there's resolution, which is a 4K resolution at, well, 30 FPS. So it does look significantly better in terms of the visual fidelity, but I do think in this game where you've got, like, you know, quick reactions, you're trying to move fast, a higher frame rate is kind of the way to go gameplay-wise. So we're just kind of showing that off, just so you can see it in action. I mean, a lot of the game can be rather dark, so I mean, you don't really see the full effects of that unless you're outside, but just wanted to give you an idea of it before going back to the performance mode. So there's also Dolby Atmos support, and there's cross-play, and yeah, you get to kind of choose how you go in. You either play as the victim, where there's a collection of different sort of like survivors, as to say, and you know, they've all got different perks and skills and different kind of abilities, and you level and improve that. And the same kind of goes on if you're playing as, well, the family. The family all have, you know, unique abilities, and you have to have, you know, our good old Leatherface pal right there at the forefront. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting game of exploration, exiting, and also killing, depending on which perspective you're playing. So it's along the lines of, say, Friday the 13th or Dead by Daylight, you know, 2 games that I thoroughly enjoy, that I have played a lot of, you know, over the years. And I don't know if this one's quite at that level of those 2, but it's kind of fun in its own way, and it does its own interesting things that I think are kind of intriguing. So, from the victim perspective, which we'll start with, the main goal is that you are trying to flee. You want to get out of here. You know, you're not really in a position where you can, like, fight back or really do anything to prevent, you know, pain and suffering for you or your squad. But, you know, you are... Oh, the door's already open. You know, you are able to hide, you are able to go between cover, you are able to slam things in order to escape. So it's kind of interesting, and it works pretty well. And you get to explore some pretty detailed environments. I mean, obviously the lower resolution is like pretty prevalent, and like, I don't know why you're so hidden in bushes. I really don't get how that works so well, but people literally do not seem to notice you when you go into bushes. I don't understand it. Like, when I look at people, I always notice they're in bushes. When I'm like hiding as a survivor, other people do not seem to see me, and I don't know how that's caused or why, but it's very, very strange. It's very bizarre. But yeah, you're dealing with these 3 guys here, or gals too, depending on the situation, and you are trying to open various places to get... It's kind of like tiered, you know. You're in the basement, and then you're kind of like outside, and it can be like daytime or nighttime, depending on the map setup, and you are just trying to make it out, you know. Either you have to get out of the house when you're up above, or you have to, like, escape, like, these yards. And then there's usually about, like, 3 tiers or so of locations that you are trying to essentially get through in order to survive. So there might be some crazy chases, there might be stealth, there might be some coordination with your team. But the one issue I would say is that this one is kind of limited in terms of content. Now, I'm sure the maps are, like, authentic. You know what I mean? In terms of really capturing, like, the movies and stuff like that. But at the same time, I have noticed that it's sort of like they are the same, these environments. Like, you know, like, it's not like procedural, and I think maybe some elements of this could have been, because it is sort of like you are, you know, going through the same areas over and over again. And it's kind of like, once you learn the layout, and if you have like a decent team, you just walk out like every single time like it's no big deal. See, now this is one problem when you don't bring any health, is you're gonna die. So 2 of our guys have disconnected. That's lovely. So that is another problem too, is like the matchmaking in this game is not great in its setup. So it's sort of like you have to wait till everyone readies up, or you have to wait like 3 minutes or so people constantly leave. And then when you do get into a match, people like disconnect and exit, and it's the matchmaking. You could be sitting there for so long trying to like play a match, and I do feel like to a degree that it is a little like kind of lopsided in favor of like the family. And I'm sitting there trying to think about like the best way that it could be a little bit more evened up. You've got to be kidding me. And I'm like, I think maybe 2 family members might be a little bit better, but at the same time, you know, I've sat there and had the family just have no idea what we're doing, and we just exit. It's a bit of a nightmare situation sometimes. Because, you know, it's like, I know this guy can't get this way, but I am bleeding out. Yeah. So it's intriguing. Like, I do... You know, I do like a lot of what they've done with the game, but at the same time, I do sit here and I'm kind of like, it can go by really fast. It can kind of be like, you know, I do sort of wish there was a bit more to it in terms of different map layouts and stuff, because like literally, you know, you get that like layout going, you go, okay, I know this map, I know the setup, and you just literally can just walk out really fast. Let me guess, he's gonna walk right to where I am? No, he doesn't see the footsteps. So that guy's got a cool ability. Like I said, you know, different survivors, different abilities. You know, the different family, the different killers, they have different abilities too. His is like a tracking the footsteps type thing, which is, you know, really quite good. I kind of was hoping there'd be like another health, because I'm trying to escape out the other way. Although I could look around here and see, like, I will say, I love how dense the environments are. Like, there is, you know, like, a lot of flora to them, like, lots of plants, there's lots of clutter, it's sort of disgusting, you know, like a lot of the places, kind of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre environments really should be. So, you know, that aspect of it is pretty cool. But, like, yeah, that can definitely be a thing. Oh, come on with this dude just... That's what I say, is like sometimes as a survivor, it just really, really can suck, because you're just sort of like, you know, almost trapped. Especially as your team disappears, it just becomes like nigh impossible to get anything done. Because like, you don't forget, like, you haven't even really seen it, but I have to go and I have to essentially, you know, I have to like lockpick, I have to break doors down, and when you're like by yourself and the 3 family around you, it's just like, it's impossible. You just can't do it. You really can't, unless you like really get lucky and they don't notice you, or a door's accidentally opened by a killer. It's just like, you are, you know, you're kind of just screwed, and it's like, this guy's gonna die. Anyways, let's switch over perspectives, and then we'll show off the family side of things. So this is the family perspective. As I had mentioned, every team has to have a Leatherface, and then the other characters are kind of up to whatever people pick. And you kind of start in the opposite area of where the, well, kind of the victims or the survivors do. You know, if you're the regular dudes, you're up above. If you are, or gal too, right? If you're Leatherface, you're kind of like down in there getting ready. And the perspective's just like a lot different. Like, you know, you're a free roman, you'll have your character who's very, like, honestly quite creepy, talking to themselves and, you know, interacting with like other, well, parts of the family when you run into them. So your goal is to hunt, you know, the various hunt the various victims and find them. And yeah, it's kind of interesting because and feeding your grandfather some blood. That's so funny. I hit the electric thing. I always forget about that. And then you know, your grandpapa, he can let you know where things are, and it is interesting because it's like a lot of it's kind of hunting, a lot of it's kind of finding, a lot of it's walking around. It's got some interesting aspects to it. It does take a lot longer to like play as the you know, the family, like, it takes longer to get into matches and the matchmaking, but it's an interesting perspective. Like, it really is, because, you know, to me, you've got the advantage. You're just running around looking for people and, like, essentially, you know, usually getting the job done. Unless the victims are a good coordinated team that just kind of walk out on you, but, you know, it is quite in your favor, I think. And, you know, you should always lock your doors as you leave. So that's where the important aspect is kind of showing both sides of the equation. You know what I mean? Giving you an idea of, like, how one side works and how the other side works. Because it is interesting. And like I said, like, you know, some characters can't go through some areas and other characters can. And to me that's rather intriguing because it sort of, like, limits to a degree your opportunities for either escape or your opportunities to be able to capture your prey. It's kind of neat. And you get simplistic weapons and tools. And the game itself is, like, very easy to pick up. Like, I was kind of surprised they didn't, like, sort of really push you into a tutorial on this one. Like, there is tutorial type stuff you can do, but, you know, you can, you know, essentially just get, like, right into it if you'd like to, and I think you can pick it up quite well. But for me, like I said, the big limiting things that I kind of notice is just, like, the gameplay is very structured. You know, like, once you kind of know the maps and stuff like that, it can become repetitive. Now, for things like, you know, Dead by Daylight, Friday the 13th, you kind of, like, it doesn't really matter because you're having a lot of fun, you're really enjoying it. And for this one, that could be the case too. Like, if you really like this core gameplay loop and you really enjoy it, it can be a blast. But, you know, you sat there and you've rummaged through items, you've run away so many times, you've hunted so many times. I'm hoping that they kind of expand upon the concept more, because, like, I am interested, but I don't know if I'm fully hooked, if that makes sense. And this is yet another case for, like, a mid-gen refresh where it's kind of like 1080p 60 FPS that's, like, dynamic. To me is a little wild, but, you know, like, I do really like how this is going, though. Like, it's fun, it's tense. To me, it's a lot more fun to play kind of as the victim because you're, like, running away, but I do appreciate, you know, sitting there and doing the big hunt. You know what I mean? Looking for people, trying to find them. It's interesting, and, you know, and then you, like, you know, you're kind of, like, leveling your characters and the skill system. I think once you really get, like, a good collection of people that have spent a lot of time, you know, upgrading their killers, upgrading their survivors, you're gonna have, like, a really interesting system and setup where there really is, like, a lot of, you know, a lot more dynamic cat and mouse type things going on in this one. Because I do think that this one has, like, a pretty cool loop to it. I like the sense of, like, you know, like, these horror games are really neat. They really genuinely are. You know what I mean? Like, they give you a fair chance to kind of escape. They give you a fair chance to sort of kill. It's interesting. This person does not seem to really know what they're doing or where they're going, which is maybe gonna work out in my favor. Okay, we're just gonna give you the good execution there, and, you know, they've got very stylistic, like, executions and stuff you can do, and there's, you know, all kinds of different ways you can, like, eliminate your opponents or, you know, evade and escape. Like, I don't know if I was even, you know, showing off very good evasion last match, but I think I was given a decent idea of things. But that's what I'm saying, is, like, a lot of this is, like, can be really in the dark. You know what I mean? Depending on where you're going. It's like, do the, you know, the victims make it to, like, the second level? Or are they moving around? How mysterious are they? Like, how, you know, how tactical do they play is really quite an interesting thing. And I mean, I think you get a little bit more out of it when you are deploying strategy and you are, you know, working cohesively as the victims or working cohesively as a family. Like, the family, to me, just has such an edge, though, because you can just go around and, you know, just basically freely go after everybody, and they don't really stand a whole lot of a chance. Which, I guess, in the situation of the Texas Chain Saw Massacre, you know, that is pretty canon-like to the movies, right? Like, it's not like there's a lot of, like, fight back and stuff. So I would say for me, the weaker points are kind of like the readying up system, where you have to have everyone readied up in order to like get playing, which I think is a little silly, and it takes forever sometimes because of that. And then I think about like the long term, where it's kind of like, is there enough content? Is it going to keep me, kind of going for the long term is the bigger question. Because I like it, but I'm also kind of like, I really feel like I've gotten kind of the full gist of it, and it's, it's interesting because I really do feel for some maps I kind of like, oh, I know this way, and I can just kind of like walk out, and I haven't necessarily been playing for too crazy amount of time, because like for Friday the 13th and Dead by Daylight, I can just kind of endlessly play those because the gameplay loop is just perfect. Whereas here it's just kind of like rummaging and doing and running, and it's kind of like, I like it. But do I like it enough that it's going to be something that I just keep on playing and playing and playing? Did they actually escape here? Or where do these feet trail off to? Do they go the other way too now, or? I think I lost the trail. I gotta fix this now. Oh. Is this guy like trying to die? Oh, okay. Maybe he's just giving up. I'm doing pretty good, I guess. Like, they didn't even make it out of the basement. So close. Within close range of an exit? Oh, okay, that's fine. But I think they have kind of like... That person actually escaped, that's what I'm saying. It's like some people, they just know where they're going and they just like get right out and it's like no big deal. And then he does this really weird dance. I don't really get it, but it's probably just a movie thing. It's just, yeah, he's just happy dancing, So I quite like this game. I think it's interesting. It's a good one to fit into your overall collection of, asymmetrical horror games. There's quite a few. Will this long-term gather or grab your interest? I really don't know. It depends on how much you like the core gameplay loop. I am thinking that they are going to need to add more to this experience over time in order to flesh it out a bit more. I would have maybe liked to see some procedural elements to, the gameplay and just, terms of kind of expanding the scope of it. Because it is, once you learn the maps, you're kind of good to go, and it would be cool to have something a little bit more dynamic to it. I do think it has a serious issue with its matchmaking, though, because I have actually been keeping track in doing this kind of review video. I spent 30 minutes to get 17 minutes of gameplay. I'm not even kidding. So that's a little crazy. So they do need to fix up the way their lobbies and matchmaking works, and I almost never have to kind of go over this sort of thing review-wise, but it really is that bad for this game that I feel like I need to mention and talk about it, because that is utterly ridiculous. Visually, I think it looks fine. I like how detailed the worlds are. Like, they look creepy, they look unsettling, they look like they're from the actual films. I think they did a good job of that. A decent cast of characters. I like the skill trees, the setup of it. I like the core gameplay loop. There's some interesting stuff in this game. Now, is it going to forever grab my interest? I'm not too sure. I don't know if it's going to have quite the same legacy that the other horror titles do. But we'll have to wait and see how much they really push this, because I think the foundation here is really good. My one worry, though, is just kind of like, I've been playing a fair bit of it, and it's kind of like, I feel like I've really played it, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like I've really, seen what it has to offer, and I'm kind of like, okay, he's coming to kill me, which I don't love the idea of that. I'm not gonna open that door. Oh, she can come this way. Is that a teammate going up there and I'm just kind of trying to escape this way? Oh, that's not good. Oh, she can follow me too. So, yeah. Kind of a cool game. Nice element of horror. I think it, I think it hits the franchise well. I think it hits the right spots. I think it can be a lot of fun. I think most people will kind of enjoy it. but it's going to really come down to, like, how much you want to do the same sort of thing over and over again, which seems to work for some horror games, but I don't know if it'll fully work for this one.